It looks like everything is working. So, welcome, one and all. Greetings, Sculpins and Sapiens, ladies and gentlemen, those that are neither, and everyone in between. I am the Sarcasm Detector, also known as the Low Life Cat on Twitch and other venues. As you can see, I'm a cat, a VTuber, and a variety streamer. Today we're going to be playing some Star Trek Online. We're going to be playing with some of the Intel ship. We're going to go through a couple of them, maybe even a few of them, having some discussions about them. And you can see the Saturn up there in the background. So that's what we're going to be starting out with. But first, for those of you who are new to the channel, I like to do chill and calm content. For the most part, there may be mayhem, shenanigans, even tomfoolery going on the screen, but I will be my calm and laid back self as usual. At least that is the intent. That's what I strive for anyways. So if you're enjoying the content, give us a thumbs up, by the way. That does help the channel, and if you're watching the VOD of this in the future, leave a comment down below, and if you haven't done so already, subscribe so you get notified whenever I upload new videos or do another stream. I'm gonna dive right into this, and we're gonna take a look at the Saturn build that I have been sporting. I don't think I have showed this one on stream. Not yet, anyways. It's gone through some revisions. Perry, how you doing? You like the headphones? You mean the previous cat avatar. How you doing? Mikey. Hey, how you doing, bud? Alright. So this is what I have going. So it is a control build. And here's the thing with control builds on science ships, Intel science ship. It's not so good. So if we were dealing with, say, well, let me switch here. Let me go to augment. Because this is a battle cruiser that I have a Saidu build on, and it works really well. And the Psi part is control, and it does really well for a control boat. And on top of that, we have 8 weapon slots for mayhem, which is surgical strikes. It does it really well. It does the control part really, really well. That isn't the problem. The problem is on science ship, specifically the Intel science ship. Let's switch back to the oncoming storm. Intel, while it does have its synergies with Spore Infused, which really is something that is hands down meta for control build. The more anomalies you have, the more spore things you have popping up, and then you get the more science and intel abilities, the more you can trigger those spore infused explosion. Unfortunately, the intel spec doesn't actually have a lot of stuff that will create an anomaly. It has ionic turbulence. Ionic turbulence will actually proc this twice, spore infused. Once when you activate the ionic turbulence, it'll trigger any anomalies to pop their spore, and when it lands it creates an anomaly, which is another place that you'll have spore pops coming up. Other than that, it doesn't have anything else. Everything else, say like the EMP here, this will definitely trigger the pulse part, but it isn't considered an anomaly. This one, Unstable Warp Bubble, also does not trigger any anomalies or anything of that sort, unfortunately. So, trying to do a control build here. We have Gravwell 3, we have Ionic Turbulence, we have the EPP, we have a TBR, and we have a Very Cold in Space. So not a lot of control, but still quite enough to be respectful. And we do have a bunch of, a whole bunch of stuff fell off. Let's get it back this way here so you guys can see the tray here. I have a whole bunch of clicky consoles going on here. So there's enough for a number of on-con procs here to keep this cycle going pretty good. The problem is we don't have any debuffs, so using the deteriorating is not really working out. That's the issue here. Hey Dwayne, how you doing? So I put in an inhibiting, which procs off of control ability, versus having a deteriorating, which is off science buff debuffs, and you can feel it in the DPS. So realistically, you want to keep the debuffs going. And to do that, we either have to get rid of some control or we have to get rid of the intel. So here I would have a TBR, DRB, destabilizing resonance beam versus the ionic turbulence. And here, probably a tachyon beam, which I don't have there. Tachyon beam right there. So both of those would prompt the deteriorating, and you can that just would give you so much more DPS. That damage output is like not inconsiderate. The inhibiting doesn't do that much damage, unfortunately. But it's better than nothing, because it is better than nothing, because if I had been using the deteriorating, I don't have the debuffs, the science debuffs really to proc it. It wouldn't be doing anything, so at least I'm getting something out of my secondary deflector. So that is the issue with going control on an Intel science chip. You're going to have the same issue on the Kalian, the legendary Vesta, because it's pretty much identical. The difference being the lieutenant commander here is Intel, and this is not pilot. Yeah, I'm using pilot on this. It is, how do I put it? It's more of a dreadnought than a spearhead, to be honest, in the way it moves. It's big, and yeah, it moves more like a science spread, but it's still a spearhead. So it's got I prefer the 7-weapon layout to having a hanger on this thing. It works out pretty well. Yeah, you might have noticed I'm running Fa on this thing as well, because the weapons are really superfluous. They're not really doing that much damage. Even if I switched, if I switched to surgical strikes, I'd be giving up Grapple 3, but they wouldn't be doing that much damage. It's a 6-beam broadside, so it's not bad damage. It's not low damage, but it's not going to be fantastic. Just a point I want to go off on a little bit of a tangent here. We're talking about damage and stuff. This is all off meta things. The main meta currently is, of course, torpedoes. For the most part, that is doing the most damage. It's an expensive meta. You need quite a lot of ships, trade things from different ships, and none of them are cheap. There is a Cytorp meta for science ship, and that one might not be as expensive as the torpedo meta for other ships, but it's still quite difficult. I am doing something different here. doesn't comply to any of those metas. And fair warning, if you copy the stuff that I do, it works for me, it might not work well for you. So just to have a grain of salt there, fair warning, you have been warned. I've been doing a lot of Space Barbie on my Mirror Tier 5, Patrol Escort, and Ship Customize. I know, it's everyone's staring at my ship here. Anyways, back to the ship. The core of the ship is pretty basic for a EPG build, controller build. Although I think going the full gamma set might not be a bad idea either. I think that might work. By the way, is this re-engineerable? So we have Draenex. Do I have Draenex here? I do. And there is Draenex there. What I might do is switch this over to a debuff build of some kind instead of being a controller. To do that, I'd have to switch over to EPG and Draenex. So maybe switching to a Tychon's build Rift instead of a Gravwell build. And that might be able to synergize a bit more with it being a science ship. Something we can possibly put on the legendary Vesta as well. That's a thought. And that would require some changes. And I think the gamma set lends itself to drain. Let's check. Well, there's the maneuverability, flight, kinetic damage, and task force resilience, control, and drain expertise. It might be worth a try then. We might actually make a new build. Shall we try making a drain build? That's going off on a weird tangent. Let's stick to what we have now. So the rotation. Let me open this up for you. It's Trace 7 and Trace 6 are my keybind, which is on the shift spacebar. I don't bind anything to spacebar. So it starts on Trace 7 from left to right, and then Trace 6 left to right. And it is basically Photonic Officer, Emergency Power. We have a pilot team in there because why the fuck not? That helps the maneuverability of the ship a bit. We do have the Torp Spread 3 with the gravimetric. We have a Fall 1. We do have Beta in there. And we have Alpha, Go Down Fighting, and the science team here at the back just to keep rocking the Spore Infused as we go along. You might be wondering why not have Intel team. Well, the problem is you cannot use Intel team if you're using sensor analysis. It'll gray it out. If you have a sensor analysis on someone, you won't be able to click your Intel team. It won't let you. So if you need to get out and hide really quickly, which is the point you probably want to be using the Intel team, that's an extra thing you have to click. Science team does the same thing, which is proc the mass infused. The Spore Infused. Mass Infused, wow, I'm like, my words are everywhere, but this is mainly an uncon build, so it's got a lot of clickies. These do a shit ton of damage too, and they buff like crazy. Might as well show you the traits as well. Spore Infused, you can see it right there. We have Universal Designs. We have Weaponized Exotic Particles, which trigger off the, mainly it's going off of Fall. I don't think it stacks. And then we have the Temporal Anchor for the Gravity Well. We also have Terran Machinations. The bridge officer beta is going off of every 15 seconds, so this has pretty much constant uptime. I hope so. We do have ZMOC in there, so it's got a whole bunch of things going. We do have the improved photonic officer with photonic officer 1. We do have a boiler going as well. And on top of that, I put a ZMOC in to make sure this stays on a 15-second cooldown. Other than that, there is controlled countermeasures, enhanced sensors, precision, advanced targeting. It's a standard affair. I did put my key tactics in there for some reason, but we'll leave it in there. It doesn't make that big of a difference. So this is the controller. It's not the best controller that I have. There are definitely better ones, much better ones, but it's effective. And what's really good is in advanced queues. It does well in elite and has parsed anywhere, depending on the team composition. We're talking about competitive ISC. It will do anywhere between 300 to 500 DPS as a controller, which is respectable. I think that is pretty solid as a control boat. I think it's just about the same as my Vern. My Vern might outperform it, probably has a higher average, closer to the 500, whereas this does fluctuate depending on the run and the composition. And the timing as well. The issue probably is that the Vern spoils us. If you are a science captain or someone who likes to fly in science ships doing sciencey things, you don't have to be a science captain for that. I am a tactical. It works really well. Probably tactical does it better than science, but that's a different. But if you like doing sciencey things, space magic, as some people say, and you play with a Vern for a while, you get spoiled. And every other science ship after that you fly is just doesn't feel up to par any longer. And it's kind of sad, because there are some really good ships. This one's decent. I don't have it fit correctly for what it can do, I'll be honest with you guys, but it is effective. So we're gonna dive in. We're gonna give it a shout out. Who's this? Want to come along? We can bring you along as well. Anyone else want to come? We're gonna just do a quick random see, just doing a bit of control and funny stuff. Just, I know there's a delay, so we'll give it a second. By the way, we have some hi-fi music playing in the background by Stream Beats. Still good music to chill to. Alright, well, too late now. I'm hitting the random. And we got the pop. Mirror Patrol. That's a tier 5, isn't it? Oh, okay. That worked somehow. You managed to sneak your way. Sorry, Stargate. Do love my Equinox Juicy controller as well. Yeah, that one's interesting. I might pick that up at some point. Oh, good.
Listen up. The war has not...
Stargate was here on his... I thought I saw a battle cruiser. Nope, he's not here. Never mind. That was strange. What I like about this ship is it's got the battle cloak. Tier 5 mirror. Tier 5, I'm seeing a lot of people flying the Tier 5 ships nowadays. I think JB might have something to do with it.
We're prepping for evac of non-essential personnel and civilians.
You might be wondering why I have the fall in there. It's really just to put dots on as many things as possible. Well, so you guys can see the map a little bit better.
4 shields failing. Right shield failing.
Ooh, nice. Someone's using the Tholian set.
Target shields have failed. Hull intensity below 75%. Shields failing.
Well, I've always said that there's nothing wrong with the tier 5 ships. They're pretty much as good as the tier 6 once you get them the U update.
Shields have failed.
And if you're someone who doesn't play with spec seating, specialist seating, then it's not required. A lot of my builds do not actually use spec seating at all. Some of them don't use spec seating, so that's really all the advantage that tier 6 has.
There's a break in incoming warp signatures. We may have a short amount of time before more arrive.
One ship I want to actually pull out of mothballs is the Tempest. I think the
Reading some heavier ships
Fleet Patrol
incoming.
Escort.
Raiders and battle cruisers.
The one with the Daedon bombs.
Please state the nature of the emergency. Warning. Ship is under attack.
That's actually a fun little ship. One of the first, if not the first, of the 2409 style, the current visual cue that we use. Some people hated its look. I loved it. I don't really have to use any science abilities here.
Decatur is taking some fire.
And
Please
not
assist.
taking much fire to require me to cloak. Let's swing around and give these guys a grapple. Give them full treatment. Definitely turns into a broadside build. So, normal EPG build, you'll be building up debuffs and stuff. Usually, destabilizing resonance beam, tachyon beam, all the fun stuff that puts debuffs and shit on your thing. So you're proccing your secondary deflector, and that, I guess, we can say that particular secondary deflector is just slightly overpowered. Let's be honest. But here we're just really concerned about controlling enemy
This is
movement.
Andor. Our shields are taking hits, and we could use an escort.
Nice grab well there, bud.
An evacuation ship is launching. Give them cover.
My torp's not firing.
The Klingons are regrouping again. Get into position to prepare for the next
Fine.
assault.
As you can see, pretty smooth. Doesn't kill things super fast.
Here come the Klingon
But it is a
battleships.
burst build,
Keep
and I haven't really
fighting.
been using my clickies up.
Please state the nature of the emergency. Warning. Ship is under attack.
a carrion. Put a torpor build on the tier 5 Mara Patrol escort.
Rear shield failing.
It wouldn't be like a proper
Right shield failing.
Robert Torp thing because you don't have the
Requesting assistance.
communist firepower.
Hull integrity below 75%.
I'm actually taking damage. Ooh, let's get serious here, guys.
An evacuation ship is launching. Give them cover.
Right shield failing. Hull integrity below 50%. Left shield failing.
Yeah, it wouldn't have communist firepower, otherwise known as concentrate firepower, which we really need to talk about. Maybe I might have to
Integrity below 25%. Rear shield
skedaddle. Oh, that's not good. Okay, let's just heal up a little bit there. I should concentrate on what's going on my screen, right?
Please state the nature of the emergency.
Warning. Ship is under attack. Hull integrity below 25%. Floor shields failing.
Roosevelt is in need of aid. Can you draw off some of those enemy ships?
Be the last guy? Yes, it is. Okay, good. There's an issue here, and it's a two-part issue. One, it might even be a three-part issue. I'm talking about the certain torpedoes, how certain torpedoes have the ability to do friendly fire upon yourself and your friends on your team if used with a certain ability, such as torpedo high yield with certain torpedoes, such as the gravimetric. There are others as well that have the same interaction. When you use high yield with the gravimetric, for those of you who know this already, you get a big nasty torpedo that, if it explodes too close to you when you fire it, can one-shot you or one-shot one of your team members. It is hilarious for about 3 seconds. And so, you would say, well, in that case, don't use high yield. What's the problem? Don't fit high yield to your thing, and you won't have that problem. And as you can see, I don't have high yield fit on my thing. But that's aside from the point that there is something in the game which is supposed to be a casual, friendly Star Trek theme park, where you have it's pretty much the only weapon system apart from, we'll lump it in with the mines. It's just half the torpedoes and the mines have this particular thing where they can damage you. They can do friendly fire. Okay, so let's disregard that for a second. Even if you don't have high yield set on your system, there's a good chance someone on your team has a concentrate firepower fit. We were talking earlier about how torpedoes are the meta and concentrate firepower is basically the central tenet of that meta. And what concentrate firepower does is it marks the target and gives free high yields to anyone shooting a torpedo at the target. So you could be going along your merry way in your science ship, doing science ship things with your gravimetric torpedo, and poof, you're dead. And you're like, what the, how, what? And you look at your little thing that tells you what killed you, what damage you took, and you'll see that, you got one shot by your own gravimetric, but you weren't running high yield. Why? Oh, because someone on your team was running that. And, it's the meta. Of course they're going to be running it. There's probably multiple people running it. So that's a thing that makes it really difficult to be a controller. It's really sad that we get oppressed like this. And, and the devs just enable this oppression by the torpedo meta guys over the rest of us. We're just trying to shoot our gravimetric torpedo in a peaceful spread, and we're getting killed for it. For choosing a particular type of weapon. I think it's time for the devs to fix this bloody thing. Either fix concentrate firepower, or just disable the fact that these torpedoes can one-shot you. I mean, it can be done. The enhanced biomolecular torpedo has a high yield, a destructible high yield version that will not one-shot. That will not do friendly fire damage. It's possible to do that. They can disable it if they want. It's time. Do it. Just, so at least we're not killing ourselves accidentally or killing our teammates. It's ridiculous. Let's be honest with that. Science torpedoes are great. Love self-nuking. Surely. Sure. I mean, it'll open up more build choices. I mean, we can go with the plasma torpedo build. The only reason I don't go with the plasma torpedo build is because it is pretty much suicidal, and it hurts everyone, friend and foe alike. It's great, but really, come on, what other MMO does that? Seriously, what other MMO does that? And let's not forget about the third fold in this, which is the confuse bug, which I don't know if it's a bug or if it was just lazy development or whatnot. What's the confuse bug? So let's say this guy, which is the Leviathan, the NPC ship. If we're in a fight and I confuse this target, and then I shoot a area of effect thing, which is a agony redistributor, which here says each second up to 12 seconds, amount of hull depleted from target is stored. Each second deals phaser damage equal to a third of the stored value to people around him, to 10 foes within 5 kilometers of target. So let's note that. It redistributes the damage to all your foes around the target. Now, if I confuse this target and then hit it with this, you would assume that the damage output would go to my foes, right? Incorrect. Its table is taken from the target, which is confused and does not know friend from foe. So the damage is spread to pretty much anyone and everyone in the area, yourself and your friends included. So again, I don't know if that's a bug or just lazy development from way back in the year, because this bug has been around for ages and ages and ages, and it's not just with the agony redistributor. Any kind of AoE device target that will say bounce, like the isometric charge where you shoot a ball of electricity and it bounces off between foes. If any one of those guys is confused, it can bounce back at you or your teammates. I think it's time to fix that particular bug, because these are things that hurt ourselves. We get stuff from the game. We spend money on some of this stuff, and we can potentially kill ourselves by using them for stupid reasons. Anyways, I think I've ranted about this. Sorry for the rant. It needs to be said, and it needs to be heard. So I hope people hear it, and maybe we'll go about changing some things. It's not as bad as when the Agony console first came out. Yeah, I know, but this bug it's not just the Agony console. The fact that the Agony console is so freaking overpowered just highlights the bug, but it's been around for a long time. And yeah, I mean, back to the show. So again, great controller, not the best controller. Damage wise, she'll do damage. She'll do good damage. But I don't think control is what you want to be putting on an Intel science ship. I think that's my final thoughts on this. It'll work. I'm not saying it's not gonna work. It's just not gonna be super optimal. The Tholian rep clicky is a good, yeah, exactly. That's the other one here, refracting Tetrion cascades. You can zap yourself and your teammates with that if you hit it on a confused target. And confuse is an unpon proc, so people have been starting using it more often. Some of these science abilities. Whereas before it's kind of useless. Why would you, pick like a scramble sensors or whatnot, but these days it is an uncon proc. Uncon and a universal system combination is a very popular meta. I'm using it right here. So of course people would want to stuff whatever science abilities they can get, as many as they can get, into the ship. Which is, I guess, nice that, Intel also procs it. By the way, one thing I would love to see done, I don't have one. I believe I heard that JB has one. The Temporal D7 battlecruiser. What am I focused on? I was focused on someone weird. I believe JB has one. That has I believe it has both an Intel and a Temporal seat. And the Temporal seat is a Lieutenant Commander at the very least. That particular battlecruiser might be one of the best controllers in the game. And it's a battlecruiser. So I'm kind of curious if JB's around, if he's will be willing to do something with that. In that regards, in that experimentation. So what would you do with a Intel build on an Intel science